We are 5 minutes, 5 minutes counting down. We're now at 35 people. Okay, we got a few more in here. Not bad. We are going to be giving out. I think we can go ahead and start chatting now. Chatting a little bit. Today we're going to go over a lot of stuff. We're going to go over everything. We're going to go over this again here in a few minutes. We'll give people time to roll in. We're going to talk about what all have we done since we started the company. There's been a lot of things. We haven't really been engaged with our community very much, and it's time to start getting really engaged with our community. We'll talk more about that. Yeah, so we're not really starting now, guys. Just to be clear, this is just the pre-show, the pre-talk. We're just saying hi, hello. Tell your friends to come on in here. We want more people, and we're only at 39 right now. Let's get to 50, get to 100. We are going to be giving out information, a lot of information that people are going to want to have access to. And again, we're looking to give out rewards to our community as we grow. And the people that are engaged with us. I mean, look, this is our first town hall, right? Like everybody in this chat, I'm going to screenshot this chat at the end, and I'm going to see who is in here. And those are going to be people I remember forever. We remember forever, right? You're our earliest supporters. So thank you guys. Thank you for supporting us. Tell your friends to come in here. We want to get the word out about what it is we're up to. Now, these are meant to be a little more exclusive. That's why we're not doing it on X. We may do some on X in the future, but we want this really to be about community. About you guys, very more personal, more human Q&A, that sort of thing. But yeah, not formally starting yet. We'll start in a few minutes, but trying to keep you guys entertained as we get to the top of the hour.
Is my mic actually working?
Yes.
I think we're all good.
Thankfully.
Your hair looks stupendous, Jeff.
Hey,
I like it.
Supernatural beauty is a burden.
So we'll probably wait till a couple of minutes after to really get going, because sometimes when you say things starts at a certain time, it takes people a few minutes, to roll in past that time. So we'll start probably formally a minute or two after. If we can hit 50, honestly,
a few minutes.
Yeah,
that'd be great. Just to answer the question very briefly, we are going to record this. Some of our marketing folks are here, and they're going to record this stream. It'll be available after the fact. We'll also chop it up into some clips so that we can reshare that on socials and other things. So this will be captured by our team.
It would be really fun to do an open house in game at some point in time in the future. Look forward to that.
Yeah, that would be great.
I hope everybody in this call we get to play the game together in the not so distant future. That would be a lot of fun. And that is ultimately what we're doing. It's all about community.
I see your comment about being a voxelmancer and Landmark. Man.
There's some epic creations from Landmark.
Both happy and sad, yeah.
Yeah, happy and sad.
JB's trying to be funny. Keep trying, JB.
It's actually how I met Jeff. We can do some backstory time since we're killing some time. I had
No. We're not doing backstory time. That's part of the chat, man.
Okay.
Yeah, backstory time. That's part. Look, how we got started and how that's part of the story, man.
Yeah, we'll save it. We'll save it. All right, so we're a minute from the hour. Again, we're going to formally start a couple of minutes after. So tell your friends, hop in here. We're 42. Help us break 50. I'd love to get closer to 100, but I can live with 50. And then again, we're giving out alpha, and everybody that's in here early, but we're gonna remember you. So.
Alrighty. We are at the top of the hour. We've made our time. I'm going to go ahead and start recording on my side. Just so
I already kicked off my recording just to see if it would break anything.
Yeah. And if you guys enjoy this, let us know, because we want to be really transparent with our development process. Zach will tell you, Jeff will tell you, games we worked on in the past, I found can be very, very fruitful to really open up the doors, really show how the soup's made, metaphorically speaking, and then bring you guys into the process, help develop, help win, help create with us. I think it'll be a whole lot more fun, a whole lot more rewarding, and I think you create a better product in the end. So want to do this with you guys.
back in the day when we were working on Landmark and EverQuest Next, which was also intended to be a user-generated content-focused game, we found that working directly with content creators, it was the most valuable part of what it is we were able to do. We learned a lot from it. It helped us refine our tools. If I were to go through a list of the emergent, capabilities that our creators discovered about our technology, that alone could be an AMA. And so we expect the same sort of process here in Avalon. We are going to need feedback from our customers. Looking forward to it, looking forward to that sort of engagement, and building a world together.
Almost at 50. One more person. Who's going to be that person?
I know,
Mark
we're
this,
just
whoever
about- we're just about there.
joins, let me know. Let me know who that person is. I want to know who that person specifically is.
Audience is 52. Audience is only 49 though. There's 52 in total.
50, there we go.
So we don't.
All right,
Hey,
let's
there's
mark
50.
who that was.
Yay!
Yeah.
Yay for bot
All right,
number
thanks,
we can
49.
start now.
Right.
All right, we ready? We ready to rock? Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna get started. All right. So as we get started, just a couple of things, some housekeeping items. First, thank you to everybody. Sean's really talked about this already, but I just want to really sit on it. Thank you so much for being early supporters. We really, really, really appreciate you. It's hard to be excited and to feel heat around a project that has shown not a lot as of yet. It's really important to us to embrace our community and to have you guys here. We really, really appreciate you. That's from all three of us, and really the whole Avalon team. We're deeply appreciative of your presence and your engagement. In particular, there's a bunch of folks I recognize in this chat who are constant presences in Discord. And in particular, I just want to give a shout out before we get started to our Discord moderators who have done a tireless and thankless job to make sure that the server stays clean and that it stays motivated. I'm really appreciative of the moderating team in particular. I just want to make sure that we call them out. To get started, my name is Zach. I go by Ozuri online. I have for a long time. I am the Chief Operating Officer at Avalon. My job is really mostly the boring parts. I'm the one who make sure people get paid, that the bills get paid, that the lawyers get paid, that HR is handled, all of the sort of back end stuff. Marketing is also part of my remit, community, etc. I'm joined today by Jeff Butler, our Chief Product Officer, who goes by Fellstrike online. And I'm also joined, of course, by our illustrious CEO, Sean Pinnock, who goes by Morpheus, a wholly novel and unique name, not used by anyone else ever. Today, we're going to talk about Avalon. It's our first community town hall. I'm really excited to get into some nitty-gritty details with you folks, share with you our plans, sort of what we've achieved in the past here over the last year, and then what our plans are for the future and how that might impact you. We'll take questions at the end. We have questions that we've taken from the community that you've submitted via the Google form. If you haven't had an opportunity to submit those, please check the announcements channel. There's a form that's linked there. I have that form up live, and we'll be curating questions for the guys who will be mostly covering the development process, talking a little bit about how we've been building the game and ultimately where the game is going in the future.
So correct me if I'm wrong. Today we're going to show a little bit of under the hood.
It is a little bit of under the hood. That is exactly what we'll be doing.
I like
that. All right. Some introductions. I talked about who we are and a little bit about what we do. I'm going to pass it over to Jeff to talk a little bit about where he came from and sort of how he found himself at Avalon.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for being here. It's an honor to get to talk to you directly. Over the course of the years, I have to be clear. I came to game development because I was a game player. At one point in time, I was the highest level player in the world in EverQuest during the early phases of beta. And because of that, I got to be friends with the people on the development team. I ended up being the third or fourth volunteer guide and helped them create the processes for that program. They hired me as the first lead GM, brought me out to California. A week later, I was the customer service manager, and we launched the game. And then 9 months later, I was the producer of what was then the world's largest massively multiplayer game of all time. Shipped the first 3 expansions for EverQuest, planned the 4th, left to co-found Sigil Games Online with my partner at the time and make Vanguard Saga of Heroes for Microsoft. We ended up getting bought back by Sony Online Entertainment, launched the game, worked on a bunch of products over the years, but ended up pitching an idea to Sony Online Entertainment for a game called EverQuest Next. It was intended to be user-generated content, focused game. It was all built in voxels, very complex and very technical. But we spent about 3 years working on the project, and it was quite a technical success at its time. Unfortunately, it didn't get to see the light of day when the company got bought and all ongoing development got shut down. Could have been a pretty amazing thing. And I can tell you that some element of the ideas and what I would consider to be the brilliance behind that project has been ported over to this body of ideas, simplified, streamlined, and improved. And it's sort of the basis upon which Sean and I established our relationship. He had heard an interview that I had done about EverQuest Next, called me up to pitch Avalon, and I stopped him in the middle of his pitch and I said, well, here, let me finish for you. And I finished the pitch and he said, do you have access to our documents? Are you doing due diligence for our investors? And I said, no, in fact, that's the game that I want to make. It's the game that I've always wanted to make. And that was a little over 2.5 years ago. And he and I remain as aligned today as we were in that original phone call. It's very gratifying to get to work on this project.
So, Sean, what was your history? How did you come to decide that Avalon was the thing that you wanted to make, and that you wanted to reach out to Jeff and like cobble together this team of radical developers to create a thing that had never been done before? How did you come to the idea? How did you come to game development? How did you come to Avalon?
Man, Avalon. So first, Avalon is such an ambitious game. We're gonna get more into it, guys. Like, if we really build the thing that we're talking about, we really do this, and it's going to take a community, it's going to take an army to do this, and it's going to change not just Web3 gaming, it's going to revolutionize gaming as a whole. Like, this is the ultimate game. It's the nerd's ultimate game. But so sincerely, guys, thank you all for supporting us. It's literally your support, your engagement that is going to enable the thing that we're going to talk about. We're going to get more into that in a minute. So truly couldn't thank you enough. But how did we get to Avalon? So let me back up a little bit and give you a quick backstory on myself. I started out as a little kid, like 8, 9 years old. Like a lot of kids right now, they're making games on Roblox. I was doing the same thing on Warcraft. So I was making mods on Warcraft, making mods on Starcraft. I made a lot that you have not heard of, but I actually worked on a few, not as like the main modder, but like one of the auxiliary guys making my own spinoffs on really popular games like Dota, as an example. So I kept making independent games for a long time. I was an indie dev all through college. But the whole time I had, I worked at AAA for a while. I also ran my own VR company where we built several best-selling virtual reality games, built tech for like Lockheed and NASA. But the whole time while I was building these companies, I had this dream of this like ultimate game, this super game, a game that you really only read about in books, like the Oasis from Ready Player One or the Metaverse from Snow Crash. This idea that you could have like a multi-genre universe with all these different intellectual property coming together to create something bigger or better than the sum of its parts. But I knew how ambitious it was and how much work it would take. And I knew that I needed the best people on the planet in order to achieve it. And I mean that literally, the best people on the planet. And I thought to myself, well, some of the most accomplished developers ever is the EverQuest team. And I saw the talk that Jeff had done, and I learned a lot about EverQuest Next, and I realized that him and I shared a vision for this game. And now here we are, 2.5 years later. We've got a team of very accomplished veterans working tirelessly to create this thing. And finally, we've been in production now for almost 3 years, and we really haven't shown much at all of what we've been building. But finally, we're going to start doing that over the course of this year. And I think you guys are going to be really excited to see and learn more about what it is we're doing. So
How did you decide
that's my dream.
How did you decide that Jeff was going to be your first, like, hey, I'm going to reach out to this guy and see if he's interested? How did you pick? Was it the interview?
It was. So I have a deep love for EverQuest. I don't know if most people realize this, but EverQuest redefined gaming. Most people, when they think about MMOs, they think about World of Warcraft, but what they don't know is that EverQuest is really the game that paved the way for World of Warcraft. And ironically, Dota is the same thing for League of Legends. And I thought that the people that created that game had like a truly innovative spark. And I wanted to find who was the guy that really pushed that. And I don't want to inflate Jeff's ego too much in this moment because it's already plenty big enough. But Jeff is really the guy. At least a large part of I think EverQuest's success, in my biased opinion, was Jeff. And when I got to know Jeff, and then I heard him talk about Landmark, it was instant. Like since then, every design decision that we come across, we have been perfectly in sync. And I've worked on a lot of creative teams. That is a very rare thing.
Yeah,
it was an interesting.
Sorry, go ahead, John.
I was just going to say it was an interesting thing. The EverQuest development team was so close to the product that they were creating during the course of development that they didn't have the opportunity to play their own game and to see the real ultimate potential of what it was they were creating. It was almost like a person who was, had to wear very thick glasses and look very closely at the thing they were writing or drawing. They couldn't see the big picture of how popular their product was going to be. They thought that only 75,000 people would ever play EverQuest over the course of its entire lifetime. That was their belief. That was their strong belief. But we had 110,000 people try to log in on day one, right? The idea that people would play, try. I said try, try, quote unquote. The idea that people can share an online persistent world with their friends in a Dungeons and Dragons or cyberpunk or science fiction style universe, and that's a heavy thing. Almost every intellectual property that we think of that's popular, Dune, Star Wars, Star Trek, the list is a Wheel of Time. The list is endless. People want to experience those worlds in some form of persistence with their friends. And, we're working iteratively on getting closer and closer and closer to that sort of Oasis style of experience.
Yeah, I sort of skipped over it a little bit, but I also worked on EverQuest, and that's actually how I know Jeff. We met 25 years ago working on that game, and I can stipulate to what Sean said, which is, there are multiple, let's say, fathers of EverQuest, but the ones that made money and were in the trenches, the John Smedleys of the world, Jeff Butler certainly falls into that list of people who had dramatic impact on not just the trajectory of EverQuest and its profitability, but ultimately on all of the games that came after. It's partly why I respect him so much. All right, we're going to move on a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the last year. Sean, what has the team been focused on for the last year? What have we been up to? What have we gotten done?
Yeah. So I'm gonna cover a little more than last year because we haven't really engaged with our community very much. And I want to give you guys a bit of an update. And this is the kind of thing. If you enjoy this, please let us know. Like we want to do this more. We want you guys like really in the trenches with us, not just as listeners, but as contributors. And I want to talk more about how you guys can contribute here towards the end. We'll talk about user-generated content, ways for you to create cool things and earn with us. That's ultimately what this is all about. But the last couple of years, we've firstly obviously building a team, right? We built a very accomplished team. We're about 35, 40 people now, developing tirelessly. A lot of those people are in the call. Thank you, team members, for all of your work. We couldn't do this without you. And then a number of milestones. Really, the first thing that we were focused on was creator mode. We have a saying here at Avalon, and that's that creating should feel like playing. When I was a little kid developing games in Warcraft, part of the reason that I was able to do that was because they had made a bunch of tools that made it really easy and really fun to create. And we needed to do the same thing here at Avalon. My feeling is that nobody has really gotten this right yet on any studio in the industry. I don't think there's a UGC game yet that I would call easy. And so we've been developing a number of technologies in order to do that. We had a milestone earlier this year. Did you want to say something, Jeff? Go ahead.
I do. So let me, this is a very informal thing. And at times, I think both Zach and I will want to break in and build on some of the ideas that you're saying. Who thinks that, an ethos or like a motto is like a cheesy thing? Feel free to raise your hand because they can be. But I want to point out here that when you're creating a product that hasn't been built before, oftentimes an ethos like creating should feel like playing doesn't simply sit as a motto. It is literally at the core of every decision you make. As Sean and I and Zach, as we sit and look at our feature list, as we review the status of the product, at all times we're asking ourselves, does this feel like playing a game, or does it feel like work? Does it feel like I should be getting paid for snapping these building pieces together? And if the answer is, it feels like I should be getting paid and it's not fun, then we have not achieved our goal. It sits at the core of every decision we make and everything we do. I just wanted to point that out. Everything that we do, we try to build on those fundamental precepts.
Yeah, it is a regular occurrence in our meetings for us to say, is this fun? Is this easy? Can my grandmother pick this up and start building a video game? And if the answer is no, then we go back and we look at it again. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that so far. Now, I will admit, we haven't done a lot of public testing yet. We've done a lot of private testing, but not a lot of public testing. And I'm sure there's going to be some iterative time. In fact, we actually, is one of the milestones I can talk about, is we've finished our first version of the creator mode, and we've got our first creators building with us right now. So that was a major milestone for us last year. We're going to begin to trickle more.
Hold on. I want to stop there. So that's really an important thing. We haven't talked about it publicly yet, but we now have players. I realize that's like, oh gosh, wait, why wasn't I a player? We have reached out to individual small but established creator communities who are starting to build alongside us. And that is really sort of part of the ethos of the company. And it's really the only way that we're going to find success is building alongside our community. Sean, do you want to sort of continue on that, in that vein, talking about how we're building with our community and why that's so important?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, guys, we're talking about building the Oasis, right? Like actually building the Oasis of Metaverse. And I can define that a little bit more clearly. For us, it's a multi-genre role-playing game-like experience where I can hop from world to world, bring my items and equipment with me, and then experience multiple intellectual property. The problem with that idea is that it's insanely ambitious. A company literally can't go out and build that. You don't have enough people in your organization. You have 10,000 people. It's not enough people to build that game. There is a way to do it, though, and that's with user-generated content. And so if we want to build Oasis, we lean into AI and we lean into people so that everybody in this call, everybody in our community, the thousands, and then in the future, potentially millions of people in our community can build this universe with us so that there is a never-ending plethora of content, of intellectual property to explore that's all connected in a way that hasn't been done before. So talking about what we're going to be doing in the near future, later this year we are, and I don't want to get too much into the roadmap right now because it's supposed to be more historical.
Yeah, this is let's hold that part and let's focus on what we've already accomplished.
Okay. I'll hold on that.
So we'll get to it. There'll be time, I promise. We'll get to it. So from an art perspective, I know we've done a lot of work on kit development. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So
what is a kit? What is a kit? Why does it exist? Why have we built it the way that we've done? What have we been able to accomplish in that time?
Thank you for reorienting me, Zach. Great question. I'm going to have Jeff here actually pull up some of the kits we've worked on here in a second. But our goal, as I was saying at the beginning, is creating should feel like playing. And so we're creating these modular kits that people can use to snap to things very quickly and then prefab them and share them on a marketplace. So if you look at that village behind Jeff as an example, that's the kind of thing you can develop very quickly with our tools. So here's actually our first concept when we were talking about, okay, we want to make these beautiful, AAA kits that anyone can very easily use. What does this thing ultimately look like? And so you can see an example right there from Jeff.
I just want to be clear. What Jeff is showing here is this is our live Miro board. This is a thing that we use as an internal tool. We didn't prep this for this meeting, but this is our internal tool that we use to share our art and approvals. It's how we give feedback. You're just sort of getting a view behind the curtain of how we do this.
Oh yeah. So please understand, this is under the hood, right? So you're literally seeing our live development board, and it includes comments. And for instance, there may be artists on the board right now leaving comments, updates, and pieces of concept art as we move forward. because
And
this
this is
is
all
our
work in progress.
actual repository of work. One of the things that I want to point out, several people in the chat have talked about EverQuest Next and Landmark, which was a voxel-based game. Voxels are amazing, but incredibly complicated. And we found, as we were working on EverQuest Next, that only a small percentage of the overall people participating could really understand the intricacies of building with voxels. And so for that and many other reasons, we decided to go with more of a Lego style approach. So we created a building like this, and then we broke it down into its component pieces in a way that felt intuitive and fun, and we modularized them and magnetized everything so that they snap together. You can turn the magnets on and off and place them freely. It's not a restrictive system, as people may have seen in games like Fallout 76, for example, where you can only snap something where the developer said you're allowed to snap it. It doesn't work that way here. You can snap it in any way you want to, wherever. You can interpenetrate stuff, make all sorts of crazy designs, and you can rotate things in every axis.
Yeah, so
Here you see
one of the
some of the actual
technologies one of the technologies we're really leaning heavily into is called nanite. And if you're not familiar with nanite and Unreal Engine 5, what this enables us to do is to create these like incredibly dense, realistic assets like what you're seeing here. And then not only that, but it allows our players to then take those assets and make incredibly dense worlds without having to understand performance constraints. One of the reasons why I think Minecraft is so successful as a user-generated content platform is you can just snap voxels together endlessly, and you don't have to worry about performance because voxels are inexpensive. Well, with nanite, you do need a decent computer. We're talking a 2000 series GPU. But if you have a 2000 series GPU and above, you can create Coruscant with incredibly dense worlds, incredibly dense materials like what we're seeing here. We can show you some examples of that later too. Yeah, look at the.
You tell me where you want me to go, Sean.
If you have a screen of more of maybe a prefab that you made, it would be kind of interesting. Yep, here's a cool prefab. This is a live board, and we are in-game shot there. So you can see, and this is the kind of thing you could snap together something like this in 3 or 4 minutes, and then put it on the marketplace, and then download someone else's creation. You could also tokenize it, and there could be profit sharing opportunities for you.
Yeah, here. Do you want me to show the video?
Yeah, let's show the video. So here,
this is here. I got it up here. This is a video that our internal team put together. This is just a quick sneak peek. You'll see this coming out. We're going to post this on X here, I think on the 10th. So this is just a bit of a sneak peek behind the scenes of what we're intending to show. So don't tell anyone. Shh. Everyone acts surprised on the 10th when it comes. Yeah, everybody acts surprised on the 10th when it comes out. Here we go.
Don't we need like elves singing in the background for this video?
and again, guys, the cool thing here is you could take this building and duplicate it 500 times, and it's not going to affect your frame rate. So imagine the kind of crazy worlds people are going to be able to build.
I'll never forget as we were demoing the game about a year and a half ago. We had a lot of people in our demo, several of whom were like 35-year industry veterans. And so when you talk to an industry veteran about the power of the current version of Unreal and Nanite, they have a tendency to go, "Oh yeah, sure, yeah, it's very powerful. I understand, I get it." And then you take a building that's a skyscraper that has hundreds of millions of polys and thousands of individual connected assets. You take that, select it, and start copying it into the scene as fast as you can talk, and with the frame rate meter open and unwavering. Every time a new building pops into the scene, the frame rate meter doesn't move, and their jaws literally drop to the floor. People that worked on X-Wing versus TIE Fighter 35 years ago are like, oh my God, I can't believe what Unreal is capable of. Look, when we worked on EverQuest Next 12 years ago, the idea of a piece of concept art like the one behind me being real in a game was a joke. It was absolutely impossible. But today, it's here. And so the restrictions that we've had on user generated content up until now in games like Fallout 76, Roblox, the list goes on and on and on. Those restrictions are gone. We can empower content creators without having to constrain them and say, oh, hey, did you place 8 buildings? Well, you're done. There's no more. You don't have to be a game developer to create content in Unreal now.
And guess what, guys? It's fun. And you can do it together at the same time. And if you don't believe me when I say it's fun, well, you're going to find out soon because we're going to have you come build with us. And I'm telling you, it's fun. So something else I wanted to mention.
I was just going to say, so we've talked about Nanite. Can you talk a little bit about some of the other tech we've done, maybe Dynamo, some of the other things, what's possible there?
Yeah. So there's a few other cool technologies we built. I mean, so we've been into AI. If you've known Avalon since 2022, we've been huge in AI since the beginning of our company. We knew that for people to create content quickly.
We're gonna talk about AI a little bit later. Yeah, we're gonna talk about AI a little bit later. So save that because that's going to be a whole topic on its own.
Okay.
We got a whole AI topic. But can you talk about sort of the character variation, some of the things that we've done there, and then while you're doing that, sort of the philosophy around some of the partnerships we built with folks like Super and YGG and Pixelmon and Chronoforge, so why we made some of those partnership decisions?
Absolutely. So Dynamo technically is an AI technology, but I guess I'll start with Dynamo. So we've got a very, very advanced character creator. Actually, if you go to Dynamo's website, you'll see us. At least it was the case that we were listed all over their website. But basically, our players are going to be able to create complex humans very quickly, and not just humans, but humanoids. So you could take, for example, one of our orcs and hybridize it with one of our cat people, and then hybridize that with one of our dragon people, and then generate a new, entirely unique character variant on all of those things. And it's because of the backbone of their AI technology. We wanted to be able to represent different humanoids in tons of different really cool ways. You're going to start seeing those come online here soon, and we'll show you examples of that soon. I don't have something to show you right now.
So two and a half years ago, the idea that a small development team would be able to create something like a Black Desert Online or Dragon's Dogma 2 style character creator was a pipe dream. Then even beyond that, the idea that a small development team would be able to create something like Black Desert Online and then advance past where they were, that was simply impossible. By partnering and harnessing with the appropriate technologies, not only are we going to be able to deliver something that is as robust in terms of customization as the games that I mentioned, but goes well beyond those games. So imagine, in the past, people who like anthropomorphic characters, for example, but can never decide what degree of anthropomorphism they prefer. Not a problem. You can take your base cat person, the most cat-like particular character, or most dragon-like of a dragonborn, and hybridize them between orc, human, between one another. So you can have a hybrid cat and dragon. You can control which part of the character hybridizes and where, both where and when, and in what degree. You can carry ethnicity through to various hybrid races. Like you could take an Indo-European male and hybridize them with a cat person, for example. And it's absolutely amazing technology to see in action.
It is incredible. Like, our character creator is going to blow people's minds. We'll start showing some of that stuff here soon. It's not quite ready for public consumption, but very soon we're going to show you guys that. So partnership has been industry-defining stuff, really, and it's really the backbone of Dynamo's AI tech. So partnerships have been really important to us. We've got a lot of partnerships that have been brewing. I'm not going to list all of them, but just to highlight a few folks that we're really happy to be working with more formally is the Super Team, YGG, Pixelmon, Wolves DAO, Spirit DAO. We're really interested in getting the top communities to be a part of Avalon, be a part of our mission. As I said from the beginning, this is a community-driven effort, Avalon. So big focus for us, and we've, I think, got some of the best partnerships in the space. We've also chosen if you haven't heard, we chose our L2. We're building on Base. We're working very closely with the Coinbase team, and the Coinbase Ventures team and the Base team. They've been excellent partners for us, and you should see some more stuff for us collaborating on some announcements together in the future. So I think that's a pretty good recap on the last couple of
The
years.
one thing,
We wanna move on
the one thing that I'll
to
mention about the outfits and the characters that is exciting. The other aspect of Unreal technology isn't that we can create a scene like the one behind me in high detail. It's that we can populate it with very high fidelity, believable, detailed characters because of things like nanite for the environment and nanite skeletal meshes for characters. And so our characters are high poly, they're authentic looking, believable. They have an element of stylization because I think most people who've played games understand that pure photorealism doesn't tend to age well. So our characters do have a stylistic element, a bit of flamboyance to them. Their outfits aren't quite the exact same thing you would see at a Renaissance festival, for example. The characters have a bit of stylization to them, which helps make it easier on the eye 7 years after release, which of course will be important to us because the longevity of a persistent world is at the core of the ethos of the entire genre.
you got to be able to play as the kind of character you want to play as.
So let's move on to what are the plans for the coming year. I think I'll start if that's okay. I know that there's a question we've got from a bunch of folks on that have been submitted about the questing website, corporate website, a bunch of those kinds of questions. So here's what I can share about that. We'll be relaunching the Play Avalon, our studio website, here in the next few days. I expect that by the end of next week. And then the questing site, which is the avalon.online website, which includes the full questing platform, will relaunch in March. So we finally have that in the window. I want to just sort of apologize for sort of the initial experience. We will have a plan. We do have a plan for how the people who participated in the previous platform will be rewarded. They will be able to roll their points over through unique identifiers, either through their wallet address or through the email that they registered. There will be also a bonus for those people who participated originally in terms of points that will be allocated to them as a thank you for both their participation, early adoption, and really their tireless patience as we relaunch the site. We really wanted to get it right this time and make sure that we delivered on the promise. So that's what's coming here shortly. As for the product, let's talk a little bit about that. What do we here? Go ahead. What do we have coming?
Yeah, and to echo what Zach said, just wanted to, again, apologize to everyone that had bad experiences with the website. We know we messed up there. It's going to be a lot better this we took our time with it and made sure it was done right. Okay, so plans for the year. So this is a big year for us because we've been developing the game now for almost 3 years, about 2.5 years, and it's time to start going to market. So the big community focus is here, big focus on getting people in and playing the game with us. But let's talk about some of the immediate upcoming milestones. The first thing is we're going to begin trickling creators in over the next few months. We're going to start that process probably in March. We've got a few friends and family in testing right now, but we want other people from our community starting to trickle in. So if you want to be a part of this, please let us know. I know I've been in talks with a lot of you, but please let us know. If you like creating especially, this is really your time to come in and help build with us. Now, if you want to play with us, I'd say probably wait till summer. But if you want to come build with us, it's looking like a pretty good time to do that. The next thing coming up, and I've teased this a little bit on some X spaces in the past, but to formally announce, we do have an NFT collection in the works. It's something we've actually been working on for over a year and has a heavy AI component built into it. So that'll be releasing in the next few months. We're also going to start marketing it here. We haven't really shown much of it at all, really, outside of a few private conversations, but we're going to see some things coming online here soon. I guess, can I talk about AI now? Is this an okay time?
Well,
NFT and AI
yeah,
are interlinked.
Yeah, so just to sort of recap the relevant points here for the group, we're talking about having playtests coming up here shortly. So the initial phases, again, I don't want to say playtests broadly. The first tests now are really creator focused, and I want to be very clear about that. These are builders. These are people who are creating alongside us, creating content, building content for other people to enjoy. people who enjoy that sort of modding community, that modding style, early adopters. This is not a general play test. That's not where we are.
People who
That
like to
will
give
come later.
feedback and help shape the future.
Right, because ultimately this is a game that's being built in public. We are building transparently, or attempting to do so. That these next phases will be a phased approach that includes our community deeply engaged and deeply embedded in the overall development process. And that's coming up later on this year. So let's start with, before we get to the NFT part, let's talk about AI. That you talked a little bit at the top of the hour about how AI in Avalon is really a tentpole. I sort of steered you away from that topic, telling you we'd come back to it. Here we are, we're back to it. So why? What are the different ways that we're using Avalon, AI in Avalon, and why are those the choices that we've made? Can you talk a little bit about that? We'll start with Sean, and then
Yeah.
Jeff, if you want to add in.
Yeah, we have a lot of thoughts here, guys. And this, again, I want to emphasize, this is something, like, we've been building AI in Avalon since we started. It's been a tentpole here for a few reasons. The first thing that attracted us was the idea of enabling our users to more easily create content alongside us. I talked a little bit about the Dynamo technology, and as an example, because of the Dynamo technology, now our players can create really awesome characters, really awesome humanoids in a way that just was impossible for a studio our size just a few years ago. And so that's going to be integrated into our technology. In fact, I think some of the creators may get access to that soon. So that's one of the first things. The next thing that's really worth calling out are the AI agents inside of Avalon. So this NFT collection we have coming up, all of these NFT are actually AI agents. They can play the game with you, they can play alongside you. In some cases, they maybe even play the game without you. They're fully conversational, and they learn how to play the game. So what's really exciting about this is, imagine, for example, you want to go in a dungeon and you want a party member on your team, but you don't have a cleric. Well, you can bring your AI agent with you. That is a cleric and plays the game alongside you. Additionally, there are AI agents as enemies. You may have fought in a dragon a few times, but when you turn up his intelligence, well, it's learned how to play the game more intelligently than it had previously. And again, it's an AI agent. And now it's playing like a human does. And so you can start to imagine the kind of really cool raid boss fight experiences or enemy experiences that can happen inside of the game. This is just the tip of the iceberg for where we imagine AI going. And in the future, not right now, but in the future, we imagine that our players and ourselves could generate entire worlds, potentially even entire game modes, using generative AI. The technology is not quite there today, but we can see it in the near future. So really heavily leaning into AI.
And so something that there's 2 points that I like to add to that. First, I acknowledge that just about every team in Web3 is using the term AI, talking about how they're going to be AI adjacent or they're going to include AI. But those of you in the audience who will remember EverQuest Next and Landmark from 12 years ago, we at that time had a team of developers that we had brought into our process called Storybricks. And their mandate 12 years ago was to create highly advanced interactive AI along the lines of the AI agents that you see functioning today. Our work back then was industry defining. Unfortunately, we never got to show you that work as the game did not launch, but because of that being part of our ethos, I have to be clear. AI and its integration into Avalon is at the core of what we are doing. It wasn't added on when AI agents began to become a buzzword within the industry. It has always been a core component of the work that we've been doing. And so that's one thing. The other thing that I want to say is talking to an NPC AI in the game is cool. But after a period of time, think of it as something along the lines of a gimmick. You're not going to have, 5-hour-long meaningful conversations with every AI that you meet. However, interacting with AI, both as allies and foes, that's capable of talking, I can tell you, after having done it for the last year, is simply transformative to the experience of an online world. It elevates these nameless, faceless, non-player characters with words above their head indicating what their names are to an analog, a very close analog of a living, breathing person. I can tell you a story about what happened during some of our investor meetings where we had a giant mech with Gatling cannons for arms running around a construction yard who was an agentic AI capable of conversation. We fought her many times in our demos, and she frequently kicked our asses. And afterwards, we would gather up on the border of her little area of the game, and we would be talking to potential investors and partners about Avalon. Well, because she was voice active and she knew everything about Avalon, oftentimes she would answer the questions that our investors had. And they were like, wait a second, Nikaya-chan didn't just answer the question that I asked. We're like, oh yeah, sure she did. And they're like, how? I'm like, well, she has access to the Avalon wiki. She has all of our data, right? She knows the Avalon documents because she's had the chance to read them. And so ask her a question. Go ahead, ask her a question about Avalon and she'll answer. And they were like, oh my God, we're in. Let's go. Absolutely transformative. Wait until you see it. You will be blown away. I can't wait for you to see it and experience.
It is honestly game-changing technology.
We've had, through our partnership with InWorld AI and some of the folks that we've been able to integrate the sort of the back-end technologies plus our own sort of novel implementation of those things. Like Jeff said, because we've been doing this, and this was the basis or the precept of building Avalon at this scope, we knew that we were going to have to leverage the power of the community. We knew that we were going to have to leverage the power of AI in order to get the sort of birth this mammoth beast. This has always been the plan, and as a result, we have a bit of a head start on some of the other folks in the space. We've done a lot more work here and been able to really prove out some of the more difficult parts of the technology and getting it to work, and that's really exciting. It's exciting to be at the front of that, a little bit by accident, but really as as sort of a reflection of the product that we had initially envisioned making. Sean, can you talk a little bit more about sort of what the plan is for those AI agents? I know, actually, before we do that, there's been some conversation about generative AI and sort of what is the right way to implement that in games. How has it impacted the development process? As a studio, we've taken a bit of an overarching view that, like, as the law starts to evolve and starts to create more regulatory clarity around trademark and what can be copyrighted and versus what can't, how much AI can be used in order to retain copyright and the ability to protect our intellectual property, all of those things, as we get more and more clarity, the generative AI part will become more and more a part of our development process, augmenting our existing developers. The goal is to make all of our developers and our community way, way more effective at creating content, at creating the things that ultimately people need to consume in order to create that entertainment. So, Jeff, can you talk a little bit about how generative AI has impacted the overall studio process from like an iteration perspective, giving us more views, those kinds of things? Maybe you might even have some visuals. Do you have anything to show?
Yeah, if you let me take over, I can actually bounce people through. Yep, I can bounce people quickly through something simple. So
and then after that, I want to show some of the NFT collection after we do this.
Yeah, so as it stands today, the idea of generative AI being a copyrightable source of inspiration is predicated on the idea that a human at some point in time does something more than creating a prompt, for example. And so if you have images that have been generated in Midjourney, for example, it's fine to use those as inspiration, but it is necessary to retain copyright for a human to actually go in and engage in manual work on top of or as an adjunct to the original prompts. We use these as research for inspiration, for color, for materials, unusual unusual ideas like this crazy Oni mask. If I were to ask a concept artist to create that, would take a great deal of time, a great deal of effort to iterate through it. But we can rapidly concept these core inspirational ideas from Midjourney images, then go in, draw over them, mix and match them, gather them together, explore various avenues of color, then go in and 3D model up to a finished product. Here's an example. This is a very early picture of an outfit that we have in process. And when I wanted to explore some color variations and details of that outfit, I ran it through a generative process that allowed me to specifically color individual elements on the outfit and to change those colors. I have about 50 of these little plates with this particular character, and this is the one that we decided would be the basis of the core colors for the finished outfit. And this gal will be in our NFT campaign at some point in time in the future. We're just going through the iterative process of laying out all her materials, making sure the wear and tear is done in the base mesh and materials, and that's what you see here. Again, kind of behind the scenes, or under the hood, as it were. And we've been able to make use of these inspirational images that have helped define the concept art that we then create. It's sped up our process, and it's allowed a smaller team to do vastly more work. And so, truthfully, I think generative AI content creation is going to find its place in the industry in exactly the way that we're using it today, to help magnify and multiply our efforts.
Cool.
As a force multiplier. Exactly so.
The force multiplier.
Precisely.
And I can tell, in addition to being the CEO, I also wear oftentimes the technical director hat on here. My background really is as an engineer. And I can tell you that the engineers in my team have probably increased their velocity at least 20%, maybe 30 or 40%. Some of them are on the call. Thank you guys for listening. By using AI. And every time there's a new model that drops, we're usually geeking out about it, testing it out, seeing how well it can help our code writing. Now, it's not anywhere near a point where it can replace, I would say, a mid-level engineer, not anywhere near there, but it can certainly take an engineer's ability to write code and augment it, make it faster. Hey, there's this thing I need to write. If I do it myself, it's going to take me 10 minutes as a baseline. But if I have ChatGPT to it, it'll do it in 2, and that'll save me some time. And so, or maybe there's a syntax error and I'm not quite sure why I'm getting that error, and I can run it through DeepSeek or whatever model I'm using at the time and more quickly get an iteration on it. So
as
Okay,
an artistically, I'm artistically inclined, but I am not an artist. And so many times over the years, I've struggled with my creative vision having to be a verbal description to my team. Well, what I'm thinking about is this cyberpunk ninja girl, and she should have a flamboyant outfit. It should be brightly colored, yellows, purples, et cetera, et cetera. Now, can you go try to concept something like that for me? And then a month later, after hundreds of iterations and refinements and contact sheets of individual characters, we stumble upon the chosen outfit, and then we iterate on it, we model it. Now I can do all of that preliminary work myself, and I can come to the concept artists and modelers with what is essentially a nearly finished product visually and say, now run with this. Give me little chrysanthemums modeled into the pieces of armor. Other than that, I'm satisfied with this. And we then iterate on those things quite productively.
Okay,
So let's talk about how this AI gets implemented. Ultimately, we're talking about sort of the most novel approach here is the NFT campaign. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so a few things are going to happen here soon, guys. So obviously, and for the record, we had this idea like 6 months ago, and other people started doing it, and we're like, oh well. We're going to have some of our AI agents go live here on X very, very shortly, and these are going to be characters that live inside of Avalon, and so they're going to be very aware of the Avalon universe. They're going to initially be game masters. These are people that rule the Avalon universe, and they're really going to be marketing for our NFT campaign. They aren't going to have tokens associated with them. They're purely characters in our universe, and in some cases, they may be NFT in our universe. So look for those going on live in the very near future. Should be a lot of fun. Should be great for marketing, and they're going to know a lot about the Avalon game. And of course, guys, these characters, where they're significantly different than I think what we're seeing really at least any AI agents I've seen on Live on X so far, is that they exist in a very meaningfully way in 3D space. So some of them may come online, like in the future, one of them may come on to our Discord call, and it'll be a 3D character, and it'll be talking to us. It may do it on Twitch stream, and it'll record footage and share that footage on X. So I think that'll be really exciting. And I think a lot of people can get behind that. And then, of course, your NFT in game will be able to do the same thing, which is really, really cool. So talking more about the NFT campaign, this is actually something we've been pseudo working on for over a year and a half, maybe a couple of years now, because it's core to our character pipeline in Avalon. Jeff, why don't you pull up and show some of what we work on? Now, I'm warning everyone before we show this. This is very much the sausage being made. These are not final. We have one at the end that's like, I would say 70 or 80% of the way to final, but we're going to show you our process for how we've been creating our NFT.
Okay. So we already showed a bit of the behind the scenes character creation, but these are the outfits themselves in their in their process form. And Sean, feel free, like as I'm driving around, to point to where you want me to go. Everyone should be aware, like we haven't scripted this stuff. It is literally like, hey, come into the garage and look underneath the hood of the car that we're in the process of building. So these are.
Please note, everyone in here, real quick, Jeff, is one interruption. As you're looking at these, we have one at the end that's lit. These are not properly lit. This is very much game development. 3D renders. Think of like if you've ever seen like a movie, like a Marvel, like when they're doing the pre-rendering. That's kind of what you're seeing right now. We'll have one actual render at the end to show you guys.
The thing that I love about
pre-visualization. So this is very early in development. This is part of the way that we do long-term look dev. So this is just part of a window into game development.
The thing that I love about AMAs, open houses, and the sort of work that we did on EverQuest Next and Landmark was, when we talk about letting players in, like letting creators in and talking to you about what we are working on, I want you to see the process. I want you to see what we're working on as it iteratively comes together. Like, how can you have an appreciation of the finished product if you don't know what goes into creating it? And so before color is added, but what you see here is detail, refinement, tears, all of the sort of underpinnings of an outfit before it's ready to go live. So a lot of these.
The work that Jeff's showing here is incredibly time consuming to create these assets. Now, in the future, hopefully we can get AI to start generating these kind of 3D models. We're nowhere near that point yet. You can generate 3D models today, but they're not at this level of quality and fidelity.
Yeah. Fidelity and believability is our requirement. And you can see, the detail on this outfit. Again, we were talking about nanite skeletal meshes. That's what's going to allow us to have many of these characters on screen all at once, have all this stuff 3D modeled out. So high degree of believability, authenticity, and detail. Many of these images were originally inspired by generative AI and then worked on extensively, reconcepted, refined, integrated, and then modeled out by hand. Oh, there's our ninja girl once again.
She's going to be awesome. I think she's going to be one of our first characters to go live on X.
Yep. Here's a cyberpunk shaman.
Yeah, so if you don't know, the game is multi-genre, right? So it's not like we're high fantasy. It's not like we're cyberpunk. The idea behind Avalon as a story is that it is a metaverse. It's very, fourth wall breaking. You are entering another reality, and in this other reality, there are multiple different genres.
So this guy, as you can see, is pretty muscular, and something that I'll point out, he's also not human.
Can we show the cat person? Do you have him? Do you have him in front of you? Because he's pretty bad at. Oh, there he is.
I can show you. I can show you the concept art for him for sure.
Yeah, and the 3D render is going to look as good as this, guys.
Yeah. Do you really want me to show the cat person? Can.
That one. I mean, that one was cool. That's the one I was thinking of.
So there. So this is
non-lit. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the outfit in final review and color. This is one of the original pieces of concept art that went into it before we started drawing over, et cetera, et cetera. You know, there's a very early and a very, very early view of who's going to wear this armor.
Yeah, again, this is non-lit. It's going to look more like the concept art once we light it and put it in the game.
Meow. So, what else do you want me to show, Sean?
Show me show the final render that we have of one of our
The final
characters.
render of the cat person?
Not the cat person, the one of the characters. Unless you want to do the cat
Okay.
person, but I was thinking
The one in orange.
Yep.
Yeah,
Of
one of the
the
render-
NFT.
right, yeah.
Yeah,
Although
this
that- although
is
that-
an early final render. Let's be
I'd say it's about 80% of the way there, maybe 70%.
oh, let's see here. It's all the way over here. Kablam.
Yeah, so you can see they're very different once they're lit. This is not done. I'd say it's 70, 80% of the way there. This is the background will probably change, but you can kind of see the direction we're going with our collection.
All caveats. This is a low res screenshot. That's a low res render, et cetera, et cetera. Definitely not the finished product. This is just inspiration for what the finished NFT visualization might look like. Of course, players who are interested in these characters are going to want to see the whole thing. So if you click on that, you'll want to see the whole complete body, et cetera, et cetera. You might want to see it move in an animation or video, but this is an indication of an envoy for Avalon that would be an agentic AI, drawing inspiration from games like SWOTOR, where you have a companion that can join your party if you're adventuring alone or you don't have a full group. Except that in this case, these agentic NPCs have their own personalities. They interact with the world and with you as another human being would. Very cool stuff. Kind of a super Genshin Impact character collection system, if you
So
will.
I want to give before we move on, I want to give a quick shout out to Move Momentum. They helped organize this. Thank you guys. And they put together some of our video footage for this as well. So thank you guys. And 85 people, that's awesome. I'd like to get us to 100. I'll take a screenshot when we get towards that. And in fact, I'm going to say this. We are planning on giving out some whitelists for this collection. Our active community members are going to be people that we consider, and I'm very much of the mind that I want this collection to come in initially at a lower mid price, and I want everybody to win with us. This is all about community building. I want us all to win together. So if you're interested in that, definitely tell your friends to hop into this channel. I'd love this to get to 100 because we'll take a snip here in the end. And when I'm thinking about whitelists, those people in this chat will come to mind. I'm not promising anybody necessarily in this chat at this moment, but I am saying that's going to be a factor.
Look, creating products like this is, we just had this conversation 2 weeks ago with the existing community, the modern existing community of EverQuest. Zach and I play EQ still on an emulator, and we had hundreds of people in a stream talking about EverQuest past, present, and future. Now, EverQuest is 26 years old. Ask yourself the question, would there be any such thing as EverQuest 26 years after the fact were it not for the community? And the answer is, the community is everything. It is the reason why persistent games are there. The entire ethos of creating a persistent online world is engineered to build community, to expand community, to allow people to be friends with one another, to meet people they never would have otherwise met, and to experience a band of brothers style trial by fire where they learn how to kick ass and take names together and achieve in this believable online world, in a shared sort of hallucination. It's our job as game developers to elevate that experience, right? We don't want to make a copy of World of Warcraft. We don't want to make World of Warcraft 2. We want to push the genre ever farther, but it will always be with the community. It will always be community focused, because what would it be 15 years after the fact were it not for the community? Skyrim's a great example as well. Like, Skyrim Nexus, they launch mods every single day. All this time after the launch of the game, they keep it alive.
Yeah, thank you everybody that's in here. So we're at 93 now. We jumped up 10. That is awesome. I can't wait to be playing and building this game with you guys. I think that's everything I have
All
for the
right,
NFT campaign.
so-
Zach, did we want to
So we're going to wrap up the NFT campaign conversation here, and I'm going to start to move into community questions. We've curated a list of community questions. We'll start there, and then we'll see how much time we have left. We are at the top of the hour, so we are sort of over time, but I want to make sure that we have at least 15 minutes or so to go through some questions. So I'm going to just pose some of the ones that we have fielded so far, and direct them sort of openly to both Fellstrike and Morpheus. What are your plans and how will you manage the in-game economy in the long term, given that most of them tend to fail? As a corollary, how do you balance the game to not favor NFT holders too much? These are questions from Sketch XP and from GoGen. We'll start with you, Jeff.
So that's an excellent question. In-game economies have to be balanced going forward, both internally and externally. As digital ownership comes into the forefront of games, it doesn't matter whether we do it or whether someone else does it. Digital ownership is real. Today, in every game that's out there, there is both an in-game economy and an out-of-game real-world money economy. And it's necessary for any developer in this space to understand that if you're going to create an in-game economy that mixes real-world money and treasure found in game, along the lines of Path of Exile, you have to understand the need to be able to not only balance but potentially reset economic standards, to control the influx of money coming in and going out to some extent. We've got some awesome ideas for that we'll be sharing in the future.
I love that we just hit
Did you wanna add?
107. Sorry, I'm excited.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm super hype about this number. I'm great. This is great. I just want to point out I am holding a black card, which is it's a super secret squirrel black card. They each have keys printed on the back for the game. I won't show mine. I'm covering mine, but they're all individually numbered, and this one is key number 101. I'm just pointing out we might give one of those away. We'll see. This is fantastic.
yeah, those are the
So
ultra
Sean,
rares.
they're the
I
ultra
thought we were
rare.
going to give away a dream date with Morpheus.
That's in the next town hall.
Okay, next town hall.
So did you want to address how do you Sean, can you address how do you not favor the early NFT holders over everyone else, such that it sort of bleeds the economy of the game long term? How are we planning to address that?
It's a good question. So a couple things. Firstly, the NFT really are our earliest AI agents. That's what they really are. And those AI agents, I mean, they are going to have some advantages. I mean, but they're primarily going to be more financial in nature, sometimes gameplay oriented in nature. But other players in the game are going to be able to get AI agents as well that are nearly as effective, in some cases more effective at the original thing. So we're not going to over-index on our NFT holders. I think our NFT holders will have some advantages. I mean, look, they're our earliest supporters, our earlier backers. They should have some advantages, and we want to support those people and recognize those people. But people in game are going to be able to get AI agents as well. They just won't be the original collection.
It's not pie,
thing
guys. In order for you to have for one person to have a big piece, somebody else doesn't have to have a smaller piece. In this scenario, advantage doesn't mean an advantage over someone else. It means an advantage in the game, and those two things are distinctly different.
They certainly are, and all of the precepts that exist in games today, such as League of Legends characters that are no longer available, skins that are no longer accessible or purchasable, things like Pokemon cards. Magic the Gathering is probably the best example of value built into the utility of an object that can be purchased, shared, what have you. The understanding that today Beta Black Lotus is an incredibly valuable object that the company no longer reprints. These are the precepts and our approach to creating our original Envoy campaign. So these exclusive characters, their appearances, and their nature will be not overpowering or overwhelming, but they won't be used again. And so they'll be desirable at a minimum for that reason.
We also got a question here. Thank you for that. We also got a question here from Jug7492 and from UMR 007, just about is there a disadvantage for people who came later, who are new attendees, as opposed to people who've been here since the beginning? Are we balancing that out? How's that going to shake out, Sean?
It's a great question. All of the games that lock people away from content that others have acquired earlier on. One great example, Star Trek Online, right? If you haven't been playing Star Trek Online since the very beginning, you don't have access to a lot of the things that are highly important to the meta. And so there will always need to be, particularly in a game that features digital ownership, a path for people to acquire things that are unique or valuable. I mean, that's the fundamental ethos of digital ownership itself. If I was not online when the president's Gatling plasma dropped in the game for President's Day, am I screwed forever? Or can I acquire something of value in the game and trade it for that weapon? And the answer is abso-effing-lutely. Yes, you must be able to do that. And so a person who comes in 10 years down, look, I mean, we're playing the long game here. Zach and I have been playing EverQuest on an emulator. This is a 26-year-old game. If I couldn't acquire the things that came before, it would be terrible.
There would be no life.
Yeah, and from a community rewards perspective, I don't care when you come in. I mean, so we did take the screenshot. If you came in here past the screenshot, the time has passed. But the people that genuinely support our community, I don't care what stage. Like you are literally our winners. Like our ethos for user generate content is to reward our creators in a way that really wasn't possible with Web 2, right? Like you think about how much money Roblox takes away from their creators. And we want to inverse that model, right? We want our creators to really, really win, and we're only really able to do that because of the nature of Web3. So,
someone raised a very important question, or actually made a statement in chat that I'd like to address. Now, I could go down a rabbit hole and talk about this at length, but one point that I want to make clear: many people, particularly in Web 2 gaming, would say the idea of digital ownership in a game is dangerous, and it has gone at times in the wrong direction. We've witnessed those experiences. We were avid players of Diablo 3. We immersed ourselves in the real money auction house. We understood not only the reasons why Blizzard did it, we understood the reasons behind the scenes of why people were throttled into it intentionally, right? And the point here is that a balanced and well-curated game and economy are 100% necessary. Think of when you go to a bank, when you go to someone who handles your money for you. Our responsibility as creators of entertainment goes beyond the simplicity, and truthfully, it has always gone beyond the simplicity of being your Friday night dungeon master. We have to be the curator of the value of the goods that are created in our game. We have to understand that value, and we have to fairly approach gameplay and balance and the distribution of that virtual wealth. We cannot, for instance, we cannot fairly turn down the number of item drops in an effort to get people to spend more money in the auction house, such as, let's say, Diablo 3 did, right? And if that were to happen, that would be our failing. We understand the needs there from an economic standpoint, and we're creating a game and an economy that is fair and balanced, fun to play. Remember, the watchword is it has to be fun. It has to be enjoyable. You have to be able to gear out your character without having to spend, let's say, Diablo mobile game money to gear out your character, et cetera, for fairness, to build community. And, that's where the value of an item comes. I have a potion in Path of Exile that at one point in time was worth $23,890, something in that general area. That didn't happen because someone put a dollar sign on a potion. It happened because it was a rare and difficult to acquire item that was removed from the game fairly early on as a legacy item, and it was highly desirable. The community determined its value. I acquired it. I was fortunate. I could parlay that for a whole lot of Mirrors of Kalandra if that's what I had wanted to do. The community drove the value. The game was balanced, fair, and equitable. That's what we must do.
Love that, Jeff.
Thank you.
Zach, are you planning on giving out a black key in this call?
We'll talk. Maybe not giving it out in this call, but we will. Sean's taking a screenshot of the folks here, and we'll be in contact with somebody here.
Okay, I think maybe we can raffle one off. I think maybe we can raffle. Maybe we'll do it in the call, but we'll do it later. But that's going to be really good. Yeah, I love that. Let's do that. Okay. What other questions we got?
Just very briefly, there's been a bunch of questions about TGE and things like that. I don't want to dig too deep into it. We've sort of made a strategic decision before this call that we're not going to go very deep into this. I just want to sort of address some things. I know it's a bit of a meme right now for game teams to talk about, like, oh, we'll wait for the right timing of the market. We'll wait for conditions to be better. And I know it's kind of a cruddy day. It's a red day in crypto today, but I know that's kind of a meme. That's not what we're doing. The game and the product has to be ready, and we have to be at the point where we're ready. It's not when the market is ready, it's when we're ready. We're not quite ready yet, and until we get to the point where we are ready, we're not going to talk about sort of when that's going to be, what the plan is, what the launch trajectory is. It would be good to build hype, and we understand that people are excited and want to support us and want to understand how to financially participate in ultimately what Avalon's going to be. We want to encourage that. There will be a time for that. It's just not today. So I'm just going to sort of park it there. We did get another question here that I think is really relevant, talking about platforms. What platforms is Avalon going to be on? And we've shown a bunch of really high-end art and incredibly powerful visuals. What kind of a computer is going to be required to run this thing? What's the target? What are we aiming for? And this question comes from. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. So we're looking at a few different platforms. So obviously we're going to come to PC. Now we are initially targeting higher end GPUs. We're talking 2000 plus series RTX GPUs as a min spec. Now we are also planning on, and I think I can talk about this. We are eventually planning on coming to consoles. Now that won't be this year. It might not be next year, but we are eventually planning on coming to consoles. Lastly, we're building a web deployment version of the game, so it can run on cloud. That may not be available this year. I'm not sure yet. But that version of the game, you'll be able to play on any device, anywhere, because it's cloud rendered. You can play on a mobile device. You could play it on a Mac computer. Won't matter. But initially, it's going to be PC and PC focused for people with essentially gaming computers.
As you can imagine, any game that's currently based on Unreal can be fairly readily ported to other platforms. One of the reasons why we chose Unreal.
Yeah, I mean, we want to build the Oasis, guys. We're not building another, generic. The game that we're building is graphically intense. It's not like we're using DLS and a lot of AI tech to really be able to push rendering and make it be able to run well on these higher end GPUs. But you are going to need a higher end GPU to play the game initially. Again, we are eventually looking to come to consoles, and eventually we'll have a cloud rendered version of the game because everybody needs to be able to play it. But initially, we're focused on the PC market.
User Harrison asks if you could pick just one thing that keeps you up at night most when thinking about how the project could go off the rails. What is it, and how are you addressing that concern now?
So, as a founder, especially with the product we want to build, Avalon, multi-genre, massive multi-player game with user-generated content, cryptocurrency. It's an incredibly ambitious product, and the thing that keeps me up at night, if I'm being really honest with you guys, is just. Look, this is my dream game. This is Jeff's dream game. This is Zach's dream game. I think it's a lot of nerd dream game. It's just so damn big. It's so damn hefty, and we have to be really focused, right? Like a good metaphor is I want to eventually put a rocket on Mars. Well, first, before I do that, I need to build a reusable rocket. And before I do that, I need to venture to space, right? And so this first initiative, we're not going to give you the Oasis in 6 months. Sorry, it's just not there. But you'll see the direction we're going. Hey, look at my reusable rocket, right? You're going to see some of those things. And the thing that keeps me up at night right now is like, is that enough? Like, can people see where it is we're going? Can they believe in our vision? I think the answer is yes. I think when you guys see more of the game, you play the game with us, I think the answer is yes. But that's what keeps me up at night right now. There's a lot more to do.
So that was an excellent question, and I appreciate that answer particularly, Sean, because it's almost exactly the answer that I was going to give. What keeps me up at night? What is the focus of my sort of curation as the chief product officer and trying to steer the super tanker that is the creation of a persistent online game? It's organizing and releasing features in a way that provide a view of the vision that Sean just described. And so we have to work very hard internally, and then we have to surface our work to you, members of our community, people who are devoted to the ideas that we're working on, in a manner that shows you that we know what we're doing, that we care about you, that all of these things that we're talking about, the directions that we are innovating in, are good choices, that they are successful, and that they convince you in some measure that our ideas are the future of the style of games that we are creating. You know, we've pitched Avalon a lot of times over the last 2.5 years. Many of the people, including some of the people who weren't in a position to help us, join us, or invest in us, have said that if we are able to execute on this idea, it will be the game that we hope that it would be. It will be a third generation, massively multiplayer game. You know, we're not to the point yet where we can put on a full immersion helmet and go into Sword Art Online and really, you know, when we pinch ourselves, it feels like we're being pinched in real life. We're not there yet, but it's our job, it's our requirement to take steps in that direction, right? Otherwise, all we're doing is creating sequels of other games. You know, if we created a sequel of Ultima Online, there would be no EverQuest. If World of Warcraft created a sequel of EverQuest, there would be no WoW, and on and on and on. We have to push, and we stand before you in the hopes that you believe that that push is worthwhile, that it is personally and financially investable at some point in time in the future. You know, what we, you know, in that regard, we've let you look underneath the hood, and we will continue to do so. That is the look under the hood to our philosophy, right? At some point in time, every product comes to the community and says, thank you, look at us, we would like your support, please. If you believe in the game that we are creating.
What I want is, I want everybody in this call, you know, to get inside of Avalon at some point and go, holy shit, this could be Sword Art Online. That's what I want. And I think we're going to give that to you later this year. But it's not Sword Art Online. It's not there yet, right? But it's almost there, and you're going to feel it. And is that enough? That's what keeps me up. But I'm really excited about that too.
So the last question here, as you do, you want to be able to squint a little bit and be able to see it and understand what that promise is. So the last question here, as we start to close out the town hall here today, came from Dread8210, and I think it's an incredibly salient and relevant question. And so I'm going to just sort of apologize that it's a doozy, but it's a big one. It's a thing that I think we really got to address. And the question
you promised only easy questions.
It's only softballs. Sorry.
Okay.
So here's the last question. Most Web3 games will fail because they don't understand who they're building for. How will Avalon handle the paradox of building for gamers, Web3 gamers, pure Web3 investors?
You know, if I give you my most honest answer, when we were working on EverQuest in 1999, the idea of digital ownership was real to us. We were writing papers on it. When we were working on that game 26 years ago, the idea of user-generated content was real to us. we understood that as a development team, even though we were making $4.5 million a month, most of which was profit, there was no way we could create content rapidly enough to serve people, right? Why can I go onto YouTube and see endless amounts of content today? Because of content creators. YouTube is not creating content. Content creators do so. Why can I play Dungeons and Dragons today and never stop playing for the next 5 years and never have to create content of my own? Because of content creators. So we knew 26 years ago that that was the only way forward. We have to focus on those elements. We have to create a game where they all come together. That's, in my opinion, the reason why we sit here in front of you today. And feel free, Zach, as the moderator, feel free to dig into the meat of that question.
I intend to. I'm going to pass it to Sean. How do we balance that sort of the UGC elements and sort of what Web 2 has taught us, what we've learned from that, and are evolving now past? How do we marry that with the demands of Web 3, the opportunities of Web 3, the opportunities of speculators, the opportunities that DAOs represent, guilds, all of those pieces? How do we marry those things together in a way that doesn't effectively create conflict? Because they are otherwise, they feel in conflict otherwise.
So I love this question. So I think historically video game developers and games have sort of tried to separate the financial component of a video game from the video game itself. But when I think about the Oasis, I mean, those two things to me still live together. And furthermore, when you separate those things, they don't feel real anymore. It feels like this intangible experience that I'm just playing only for fun and nothing else. But the reality is, when I level up a character in World of Warcraft to max level, I have an emotional connection with that character. And you're telling me I don't own the things that I earned? Doesn't that make you mad? Like, I don't, and not only that, but the things that I earned, spend all this time doing, you're just going to keep printing them endlessly? Like, what kind of nonsense is that? So I think there's a huge opportunity here in a way that hasn't been done before that can revolutionize gaming. And just to be clear, even today, like, there are financial components in Path of Exile and World of Warcraft and all of these games that we love. It's just not in your face. I can go online right now and buy all of the best gear in Path of Exile. And I can do the same, or at least buy mirrors and then go clone it. And I can do the same thing with buying gold in World of Warcraft. And did you want to say something, Jeff, before I continue? I got more.
Well, it's disingenuous for a developer to say that that there's no quote unquote pay to win or digital ownership in their product, because we all know that there's a black market that allows that. My goal is not merely to create a world where Web3 players and Web3 investors are welcome. The ultimate goal is to create a world where all gamers are welcome. If I told you, for example, that a Black Lotus was available for sale, but there were only 5 people in your town that play Magic, the value of a Black Lotus would be infinitesimal. It would be low. It'd be like a 25-cent card. But if I were to tell you that there are millions of people around the world who value that particular object and its utility, and there are tournaments where hundreds of thousands of dollars are given away, that object becomes far more valuable. And so if, as a product creator, I tell you that we're creating a game only for Web3 gamers, that would be disingenuous. I must create a product for everyone, where everyone can enjoy the game, be entertained, and have fun, because that's what builds value in the NFT collection that we're talking about releasing. That's what builds value in the the Vessel of Vinctar potion that drops for you while you're playing the game. Like, look, if there's 100 people online and it's an incestuous group of people who have invested but aren't really having fun and are trying to extract money from the process, then that object is of minimal value. We need millions of people building a community that believes they're not only having fun, but they ascribe value to the things that they acquire in the game. A Cloak of Flames could be worth $5, or it could be worth $500. It's all driven by the community and the amount of enjoyment they're having in the game. That's our job, to make that enjoyment.
I want to talk a little bit more about the paradox here. I'm going to talk about Web3 first, and then I'm going to talk about gaming, and I'm going to talk about how those things live together. So let's be honest. A lot of people on this call, a lot of people broadly want to make money, right? And that's maybe part of the reason why you're listening right now. I respect it. I want to make money. Most people want to make money to some degree. I also want to play games that are fun. Those things can certainly coexist. But I mean, the game that we're talking about building, right? Let's talk about from a token. I got to be careful what I say here, but the game that we're talking about building, somebody builds something like this. I mean, somebody really builds, the early version of the Oasis. I mean, forget about it. Like, I don't know where that sits on the charts, but it's going to be pretty high. So there's that. But beyond that, let's talk about revenue and in-game application. Look at like the revenue creators are making in Roblox and Fortnite creative today. We're talking billions of dollars in revenue, right? Just from in-game microtransactions. You layer Web3 on top of that, and then you have an awesome product like what it is that we're trying to do. I mean, the financial opportunities are enormous. And now if I'm a speculator, maybe I don't give a shit about creating content, but I can support someone who does, kind of like people are doing today in other games, in the Web3 ecosystem like Axie Infinity. So there's going to be opportunity for that. So when I think about marrying, so that's Web3, and let me talk about Web2. So ultimately, what gamers care about is that the game is fun, and that people that are spending money don't impact the core experience. And that's certainly true of games like Path of Exile today, because there are people that spend tens of thousands of dollars in that game on a regular basis. And so we have to be intelligent about how we design the game so that people that are there to make money are acted by the people that are there to play a fun, cool game. And those things don't intertwine. And then furthermore, I'd actually go a step further and say that, if we do this correctly, it can actually be like a wheel. Speculators are powering creators, creators are empowering players, and it's like it's like a cycle.
It becomes an engine, Sean. It becomes an engine. It's powered by creators. It's powered by players. It's powered by speculators, investors.
Yeah, that's the vision. That's the dream. Economics has been our focus since the beginning.
It's Absolutely. An ecosystem, and each part feeds the other parts. When we build online video games in Web 2, we talk about sort of Bartelsian archetypes. We talk about achievers and socializers and killers and such. People who collect them all, people who are motivated by social contacts, people who are motivated by intrinsic or extrinsic motivations. You look at the ways that people are motivated, and then you create connections between each of those groups, where the systems are dependent on one another and feed one another. This is the same idea. It is expanded to include investors and speculators and NFT holders and people who are passionate about, specifically PFPs or gaming NFTs, or people who are hodlers or whatever they are. It's about building systems that interconnect and feed one another, so that you're not reliant on, let's say, one leg of a stool or two legs of a stool. You have a three-legged stool, and everyone can sit comfortably. This is about creating a flywheel.
Absolutely. One example of, a component of an engine like I described would be someone who is an NFT holder for our launch campaign, who doesn't happen to be playing the game, but has, let's say, 3 NFTs, highly desirable from a product standpoint, and the building of the engine that I described to allow them to stake their envoys to players who are currently playing in exchange for some of the wealth that they earn while they play the game. And so for some percentage of what you earn while you have borrowed my envoy, so to speak, you're welcome to do so. And if you decide you want out of the contract, you exit, the envoy comes back to me, and then I let someone else, quote unquote, rent it out for a split of your wealth or your experience or whatever the contract dictates.
Yeah. And envoys,
so
to be
we are now
aware, those are NFT. Those are our AI characters in the game.
Those are NFT. Envoys and NFT, yeah. So I'm going to wrap it here. We've come to the end of our time. I want to thank the participants, Jeff and Sean, for their insight and wisdom and leadership. I want to thank all of the members of the community who've attended here today. Sean has taken a screenshot of all of the participants. We will be raffling off a black key at the end here. We'll notify that person via Discord, so watch your DMs. Thank you very much for your participation. We really, really appreciate you. We will be hosting these AMAs and town halls on a more regular basis. We'll also be including, going forward, much smaller developer insights. So we'll have 10 to 15-minute events where we sort of talk about a specific topic, maybe share some art, maybe share some videos, gameplay, etc.
We want to keep looking under the hood.
You can expect that on a regular cadence, both here on Discord and as well as on X. Please make sure you follow us, follow the channels that interest you. We really, really, really appreciate you. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Genuinely couldn't do this without you. We really, really, really appreciate your support. Let's do this again. This was a ton of fun. If this was helpful for you guys, let us know. We can't do this without you. We want to keep doing these sort of things. So
thanks, everyone.